This video has been sponsored by me. Again. Oh, we are so back. If you were to ask me who my favorite movie director is, I would say Tom Moore. His movies are the entirety of my top 3. And I probably should make a video talking about them sometimes. If you were to ask me that same question 10 years ago, I would say Hayao Miyazaki. I had just discovered Studio Ghibli movies at that time, after all, and everyone knows that they are amazing. Another video. But if you were to ask me 1 year before then, I would have said Mel Brooks. He's funny, irreverent, Jewish. He's the king of parody. And well,
it's good to be the king.
Hell, even while writing this script, I remembered I did a project about him once in school because I admired him so much at the time. Well, I've decided to do what he would do if he were in my shoes and make a video ranking all the movies he's created. Here are the rules. I'm only doing the movies he's directed, with 4 exceptions. That just would not feel right to not include them. Don't worry, we'll get through most of them real soon. And also, it's only movies. None of the shows he's created. Not History of the World Part 2, not Get Smart, and definitely not that god-awful Spaceballs animated show. You cannot make me watch that. You cannot. I will also not be ranking Spaceballs 2. You can't rank something that doesn't exist after all. Maybe after it comes out, I'll make an addendum. But as for now, it's the pictures that are out now. And those are the rules. Well, let's move in.
Hi, Michael.
Nein, Gott! Nein, Gott, bitte, nein! 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 Nein!
Move over, Lion King. Aloha, Lilo and Stitch.
Aloha. It means hello and goodbye. Aloha.
If you think butchering a live-action adaptation of an animated classic is a new thing, it's not. And even though Get Smart 2008 isn't butchering an animated movie, its adaptation is nothing like the show is adapting at all. First, one of the good things about this movie. Steve Carell was cast very well as Maxwell Smart. He fits the character and looks just like him to a T. And I don't know, the comedy can be a little funny for 2008 humor, I guess. And that's it. You know, the action sometimes works, but most of the time it's pretty stocky. But the reason that this is this low is because the actual series it's based on is extraordinarily more funny. Like this is the movie's strongest joke.
Get it out. I gotta get that out. Go! Ah, that's in there. That's in there.
And this is the show's weakest.
This pill, when swallowed, will bring painless death in about 20 seconds. Are there any questions?
How do I get them to take it?
Well, this sucks.
I watched this movie for the first time for this ranking, and I will not be watching it again, other than the first 10 minutes and last hour, maybe. Those 40 minutes are actually pretty funny. Everything else is drag, the forced drama to make it a more compelling story. The part where Sailor dies at the halfway point is very unnecessary. Really feels like a cheap way to give Bolt a bit of character development and empathy. And even with how it is, this movie really should have been much more mean-spirited. But then again, after Bolt gets institutionalized, that's when the movie gets the more mean-spirited notion that I wanted from it. But at that point, it's too little too late. I wanted more from Mel. I guess he's just not in his element if he's not making fun of something. And since this is one of his few wholly original works, he's got nothing to make fun of. I don't know, maybe Donald Trump? But that's just for only, like, one line.
In order to make room for the magnificent, largest in the world Bolt shopping mall, We're going to have to tear down a nursing home for the aged. So?
Not too bad size of an F tier for the guy, especially since half of it was a company copying his homework, but poorly. Let's move on to the D's.
Jesus wants a hug.
From what I've heard, the actual Broadway production of this musical is pretty great. I wouldn't know firsthand. My local theater hasn't put it on yet. So this movie is the only version of the producer's musical I have experienced. Well, the songs are catchy. Again, I'm not a music expert, so I can't judge the vocals or the lyrics too deeply. But they're fun, they're entertaining, and honestly, that's what I mostly want from movies and musicals alike. If it stops entertaining me, it's failed. And this movie does not fail there. And, well, the cast in this movie is fine. The singing is passable. And the choreography is pretty impressive. And then there's the cinematography. It just falls flat. And I mean literally flat. Sure, it's a stage musical, but this is a movie. You've got an entire film toolkit at your disposal. Camera angles, movement, framing, but it feels more like the camera is just pointing and shooting. It's been 103 years since a trip to the moon from when this movie came out. Just a little bit more effort. Utilize the medium that you are in better.
A cat is not a dog.
They always say you can't make Blazing Saddles in the modern day, but you can, and they have. It's called Paws of Fury, The Legend of Hank. Is it a good movie? Not really. Is it a funny movie? Yeah, I'd say so. But what can you expect when 88% of the jokes are reused and then toned down to make it more family friendly from Blazing Saddles?
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here?
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here?
Yeah, I mean, that show doesn't exist anymore. So that joke doesn't land the same way as in Blazing Saddles. But it's still funny to come out of a Shogun Cat. There's still good jokes. And even some of the original ones are pretty funny as well. They really do know how to break the fourth wall, just like Mel did in the past. As for the animation, I mean, it is a Nickelodeon studio movie. Could have been better, but we all know it could have been way worse.
I'm crazy enough to take on Batman, but the IRS, no, thank you.
Well, this is Mel Brooks' first time in the director's chair. And for a debut, it's pretty solid. The humor still holds up. And in a lot of ways, the jokes land even better here than they did in the 2005 version. A big part of that is thanks to the performances. Gene Wilder and Zero Mostel have incredible chemistry. Wild's nervous energy bouncing off of Mostel's chaotic scheming is a perfect combo. They bring a lot of warmth and weirdness to the film that makes the absurd premise work. Now, I get that when you're adapting a stage musical into a movie, or in this case, the original film inspiring a latter musical, you have to make cuts. But the one character I do miss is LSD. Not the drug, but the actor who played Hitler in Springtime for Hitler in this version of the movie.
I leave you, baby, I leave you. Now leave me alone.
Harry, he's funny. Hey!
He's just hilarious. His absence in the 2005 version, and I suppose the play version, is definitely felt. That said, I get why they left him out. It's more believable to have a completely clueless actor accidentally making Hitler look ridiculous than to try and recapture that very specific chaos and character that LSD brought. Still, the original version of the Springtime for Hitler disaster remains unmatched. Yeah, it's not Mel's strongest movie, but for a first-time director, he hit the ground running pretty good. Now let's move on to the C tier.
Yo, dudes, the Empire's pretty chill. Maybe you could, join it or something.
You know, it's kind of weird that I'm excited for a sequel to a movie from the 80s when I wasn't even born yet. But hey, Beetlejuice turned out to be surprisingly good, so I'm cautiously optimistic about Spaceballs 2. But what about the original? It's fine. It's fine. It's funny. It's clever in places. It's probably the second funniest Star Wars parody out there. You know, right behind the Phineas and Ferb Star Wars special. And yes, I will stand by that. So, why is this movie so low on the list? And, you know, the lowest of Mel Brooks' parody films? Well, it's because Spaceballs is dumb.
Really fucking stupid.
And I mean that in a mostly good way. It's silly, it's hokey, it knows it. The movie leans hard into being absurd and has fun with it. You know, that's part of the charm. It's very self-aware. But here's the thing. Just knowing that you are being ridiculous doesn't automatically make you a great parody. The best parodies, like Airplane, work because they're played completely straight. The characters are in the story, but not in on the joke. The earnestness makes the comedy shine. Spaceballs, on the other hand, winks at the audience constantly. It feels more like Austin Powers, where the humor is about the fact that it's a parody. That doesn't mean it's not funny. Spaceballs! The merchandising guy, and the diner scene. And that one got me good. Even with no idea of the Alien franchise when I first saw the movie. I hadn't seen a single one of those movies. Still haven't. And yet I still got at least half the joke. That's the power of a good gag. And honestly, I've been to enough sketchy late night diners and dives and bars in my life that other half of the punchline hits well enough. So yeah, Spaceballs is fun. It's quotable, but it's not peak Mel. I'll fucking watch it again. And I will see you, God willing, in Spaceballs 2. The search for more money.
I do not say blah, blah, blah.
Alright, Dracula Dead and Loving It. Kind of has a reputation of being a very middle-of-the-road Mel Brooks movie. And I suppose with how this list is, I guess that means I kind of agree. It's not the strongest. It's not the weakest. I say it's worth watching. I mean, for starters, it's got Mel Brooks and Leslie Nielsen in the same movie. So that has to be comedic gold, right? I mean, it's not gold, but it's gold enough. Jokes are hit or miss, sure. But when they hit well. It's got the classic Brooks style. Silly wordplay, exaggerated slapstick, and characters who are just aware enough to know that they are in a ridiculous movie. Honestly, I don't have much more to say about it. It's a spooky little comedy with some good moments, a great cast, and enough charm to carry it over the finish line. But before we move on, I have to give a shout out to my favorite unappreciated joke. The moment where Renfield falls down the stairs, and with every step, his scream changes to a different vowel.
Why?
It's so dumb. It's just so specific. For me, it's so perfect.
That is not Robin Hood.
Well, then, who, sir, is about to relieve you of your matchbox?
And you know, between this movie, Dracula Dead and Loving It, and Spaceballs, you can kind of see Mel Brooks' unofficial Cornetto trilogy of over-the-top, unsubtle parodies. These are the ones where the jokes aren't just on the nose. They're grabbing your nose and honking it like a clown. They're grabbing your nose and honking it like you're a clown. It honestly took me forever to realize that Achoo, played by the young Dave Chappelle, is a brilliant parody unto itself. As a character, he's a mirror of the late 80s, early 90s trend of adding a token black character who's cool and hip. Hence the Air Jordans. Hence the line about
This ain't exactly the Mississippi.
is a subtle commentary in the most unsubtle way possible. And that's what makes at least this particular character great. He and Frozone are alone in this weird metaphor Venn diagram for this specific idea. And now the movie itself. The movie is full of those kind of jokes as well. You know, Cary Elwes is also perfectly cast. He's charming and dry and totally in on the bit. Of course, Richard Lewis as Prince John is delightfully pathetic. And the musical numbers, they're completely ridiculous and entirely welcome. Now, I do have a tiny qualm with Blinken. He's funny, don't get me wrong, but in terms of story, he doesn't really do much. He's just mostly there for gags, which is fine, but compared to the rest of the cast, he feels a bit of an appendix. And well, in the rankings of Robin Hood movies, I should say, this is either number 1 or number 2, depending on how I'm feeling. You know, the other one being the one that invented furries.
Did they have national anthems 2,000 years ago?
Sure we had. Of course, we was caves. But every cave had a national anthem.
Yeah, I know. This one isn't technically a movie. It's not even feature length. But it just feels wrong to go through Mel Brooks' career and not talk about the 2,000-year-old man. Thankfully, in 1975, some of the original audio bits were spliced together and brought to life with animation, giving us a short film version that I am absolutely counting. What can I say? The 2,000-year-old man, the legendary routine between Mel Brooks and Carl Reiner, is and will always be comedy gold. It's pure, effortless, back and forth timing. Improv at its finest. And one of the sharpest examples of character-driven sketch comedy I've ever heard. Now if somehow they animated bits from the 2,000-year-old man in the year 2000, which, in my opinion, is the funniest 2,000-year-old man album, this special could have easily rocketed its way higher up the list. But sadly, time travel doesn't exist. Not yet, anyways. Well, since we're talking about the animated special here, I've got to say there's something very endearing about the 1970s Schoolhouse Ross-esque art style. It's simple, expressive, and perfectly captures the era, while also giving visual energy to what was originally just audio recordings. And, well, I'd say in terms of this ranking, this is the entirety of the line between C and D tiers. It straddles that line like Gyalp did with that one river in that one Norse mythology tale. It's not a movie, it's not top tier, but it is important. If you like Mel Brooks and somehow haven't seen or heard this yet, fix that. It is history. And I mean literally.
It's what I hate about this government. Everything's in red.
Red?
This is another movie about a former rich person living in poverty. But unlike Life Stinks, they actually make it funny. With just one little change. His desperate scrawl to get back to the wealth he had before the Russian Revolution. The scramble that he and Bender go through to find the chair that has
50,000 rubles worth of jewelry stuffed in a chair,
as well as everyone else who knows about said chair, makes this a very funny movie. The humor in this movie is, of course, different from what you would expect to find in a Mel Brooks movie. It's more restrained, more situational, and sometimes a little melancholy. But honestly, I kind of like it more for that. It shows a different side of Mel as a filmmaker. A little more subtle, a little more satirical. On a side note, Dom DeLuise as Father Fyodor, incredible. If this isn't his best performance, it's at least top 5. He's ridiculous, manic, and perfectly unhinged in a way that only he could have pulled off.
Lord, please help me. Oh, please help me, Lord. Thank you.
Also, one of the funniest things about this movie is how it's marketed. Mel Brooks as Teir, and then in the film he's in it for maybe 10 minutes total, and most of it he spends it either drunk or asleep. Love that bait and switch there. But what really puts the 12 Chairs this high on the list is the ending. No joke. It is my favorite ending in all of the movies on this list. It has Holt and Bender, spoiler for a 55-year-old movie, by the way. With Holt and Bender, not find the treasure. It's discovered by accident before they could even get to it. And what do? They move on. They've built this weird, scummy friendship over the course of the film, and by the end, they're just back out in the world, scamming people again, just like they were at the start of the movie. You know, it's funny, it's kind of sweet in a cynical sort of way, and it's the perfect cap to a very underrated gem in Mel Brooks' filmography. I live! You know, it's just missing out on the top 5 is, dare I say, probably the best Frankenstein movie ever made. And yes, I'm including the original classics in that. The thing that makes Young Frankenstein so brilliant is that it is played straight, just like Airplane and the other best parodies out there. It gets its laughs by not winking to the camera. The characters are played serious, even if everything around them is ridiculous. Unlike most other parodies that try to, quote, replace the original with a funnier version, this one is basically a sequel to the 1930s Frankenstein movies. It even uses the same sets and props in the lab. It's not mocking the genre or the movies, it's honoring it. And that's what makes it timeless. Gene Wilder is phenomenal here as Dr. Friedrich von Frankenstein.
That's Frankenstein.
He's a man desperately trying to distance himself from his grandfather's legacy, only to fall straight into it. A lot of people see Gene Wilder as Willy Wonka, but for me, this is the role that I see him as. He's unhinged in the most focused way possible. And let's not forget how influential this movie is outside of the movies. It helped inspire Aerosmith's Walk This Way. True story. And that eerie little 3-note sting, which I dare not call a full theme, is forever etched into internet history as the music behind the dramatic chipmunk meme. Well, it's kind of auspicious that we just finished talking about a movie centered around death. Because, well, that ties in very well in today's sponsor, Reap. Now, what is Reap? Let me tell you. It's a webcomic I created that follows Emerald, a girl with the rare ability to see Reapers. You know, the spirits that separate souls from bodies. It also follows Lolly, the first Reaper Emerald ever saw. Or at least the first one she realized was a Reaper. Come follow as Lolly does her job as a Reaper, while Emerald just sort of lives her life around it. It's a story that lives in the quiet moments as much as the big ones. It's domestic slice of life where it needs to be, and it's also surreal and dramatic where it needs to be. You can find Reap right now on Comic Fury, Tapas, or Webtoon, or basically anywhere you can read rep comics. I post it to a lot of places, but those are the main 3 hubs. It is a real joy to make it, and if you love macabre stuff like Young Frankenstein, I think you will like Reap too. And now that the sponsorship is out of the way, let's move on to the A tier. And now that the A tier is done, we're in the end game now. Let's move on to the S tier.
I have 2 guns, 1 for each of you.
Yeah, of course, Blazing Saddles is in the top 5. What type of idiot would make a Mel Brooks movie ranking and not put it up this high? This movie is hilarious. It's smart. It's wild, and it is my second favorite Western starring Gene Wilder. Yeah, I love the Frisco Kid, and that's a whole other video waiting to happen. But let's stay on track. Yep, when I first saw Blazing Saddles, I was 10 years old. And my biggest thought was, I can't believe I'm getting away with watching something like this. It felt like contraband. This is what edgy humor actually is. What makes it so brilliant is how it drags 1974 sensibilities into 1874. And the two eras just fight it out on the dirt. It's not just making fun of Western tropes, it's shining a floodlight on American racism, the bureaucracy, censorship, and, just Hollywood all at once. Again, people say that you can't make a Blazing Saddles movie in modern day. But when you think of it, someone really should make a modern day movie like that. Not necessarily a remake of Blazing Saddles or even a Western, but we need someone to shine a mirror on us again.
Person, woman, man, camera, TV.
Back to the movie. Right at the center of it is Cleavon Little as Black Bart. The newly appointed black sheriff in the town full of racists. His performance is cool and smooth and completely self-aware. He's not just a straight man, he's the grounding force of the entire movie. Where everyone else is bouncing off walls or punching horses, he holds the center. He plays Bart with the perfect blend of charm, irony, and just enough contempt to make every reaction priceless. Without Cleavon Little in it, this movie would still be funny, but it wouldn't be nearly as smart. And combining that with all the candygrams, fart jokes, and again, Gene Wilder as the Waco Kid, it is one of the most effortlessly funny movies out here and really earned its spot here on the list.
This is indeed a disturbing universe.
Alfred Hitchcock is, in my opinion, the greatest horror director of all time. The man made birds terrifying. And if you couldn't tell by now, I love birds. And this is what Mel did to his movies. Now, I wouldn't really call High Anxiety a straight-up parody. It's more of a pastiche. Sure, there are clear parody moments in the movie, but as the movie as a whole, it feels more like a cinematic love letter. And also, this movie actually has good suspense. It's got the timing, the tension, the angles. I like this shot in particular. It all mirrors Hitchcock's style so well that if you turned off the sound, it might pass as a real actual thriller. Sure, you can see that the budget's a little more than an episode of Doctor Who produced at around the same time. But that's part of the charm. And then I should also talk about the gags and jokes. Because after all, this is also still a comedy. There is one gag or joke in this movie that doesn't land. One of the very few gripes I have with this movie is that Mel Brooks' character is named Maxwell, not Chris. Oh, how many jokes I could have made if the main character here was Chris Thorndike. But alas, it was never meant to be.
Quit talking down to me like I'm some kind of baby, will you?
Now the fool seeks to return to the past and undo the future that is Aku.
It's kind of weird, but as I'm writing the script for this video, I can't remember many anthology movies that I've seen. At this moment, I can only think of Monty Python's Meaning of Life, Big Bad Fox and Other Tales, and The History of the World Part 1. It's just weird about that. I love anthology movies, and I am certain I have seen more than just these three. But those are the only ones I can think of at the moment. Anyways, let's talk about the film. It's always a treat to hear Orson Welles in this film.
Ah, the French.
Perfect narrator voice. Now, I'll admit, this movie's a little lopsided. The Roman Empire and the French Revolution segments dominate the second half, while the first half is made up of faster, funnier vignettes. And now, if I had to choose, I'd trim down the French Revolution segment and give us more of those quick little sketches. Or better yet, just make the movie longer. The short bits are so punchy that it really wouldn't feel that bloated at all. Also, hot take incoming, I like the Hulu sequel series. It was funny. I mean, it definitely feels more like Drunk History than a true sequel to the movie, but it still worked. If anything, the production values were too good, which is a weird thing to complain about, I know, but you can dwell on that and you'll see what I mean if you think about it. The Fantasia movies. I knew I was forgetting some anthology movies.
Will you shut up? You're spoiling my victory party.
You know, limitations breed creativity. Self-imposed limitations doubly so. That is what I admire about silent movie. By purposely taking away dialogue, Mel Brooks, Dom DeLuise, and Marty Feldman have to work double time to make the visual gags as funny as they can be, and they pull it off. Remember how I said History of the World Part 1 needed more short vignettes? Silent movie delivers exactly on that. Only, it has a more cohesive narrative. The whole structure is basically one long adventure made up of small sketches, with each of them just about trying to recruit a new celebrity to help make their silent film. I should also say the meta humor of that premise also elevates it all the way up here. Making a silent movie about making a silent movie in the modern age, or modern age for 1976, is very funny and clever. It pokes fun at Hollywood, at the movie itself, and, just the entire concept of making a film. I won't spoil it, but there's one vignette about trying to recruit a particular celebrity that has one of the best joke deliveries I can think of in movie history. And if you want to find out what I'm talking about, then you're just going to have to watch the movie for yourself. We need someone to make a silent movie for our modern sensibilities. Oh, hey, who put that there?
Fuck off, Hitler.
Does anyone find it kind of weird that Mel Brooks, a man who goes out of his way to make fun of Nazis and Hitler at any possible opportunity, and even when there isn't an opportunity, he'll make one?
Right!
He only has one movie set during World War II. That's kind of almost as weird as making a World War II propaganda film from 1942. But that's what To Be or Not to Be is. Not just a good remake, it's a phenomenal one. This movie takes the bones of the original and gives it more flesh, with sharper jokes, better pacing, and a stronger emotional core. It's still silly, it's still a comedy, but it also doesn't shy away from the darkness of what it's satirizing. I mean, granted, the original was created before most of the darkness and atrocities were known about, but still, that's what makes this movie land so hard. Right out the gate, it hits you with a classic Mel gag, with everyone speaking Polish until a voiceover breaks the fourth wall for the first and last time in the movie and announces,
"Ladies and gentlemen, in the interest of clarity and sanity, the rest of this movie will not be in Polish."
That's funny, and so is the rest of the film. Humor holds up well. Better than the original, in my opinion. The 1942 movie has its charm, but a lot of the humor has aged well, like a film made in the middle of World War II. Mel's version tightens the punchlines, modernizes the rhythm, and makes it funnier and more sincere. Hell, it's got its poignancy down too. It admits the climax, one of the characters, the one who desperately wants to give a monologue on stage throughout the film, finally has his moment. He performs the Shylock speech from The Merchant of Venice directly to Hitler's face in front of a bunch of Nazis. But honestly, and maybe it's a recency bias, but honestly, it hits harder here than it does in Merchant of Venice itself. In Shakespeare, it's a powerful argument for empathy. In this movie, it's a weapon. It's a moment of defiance in the face of hatred. It's one of those rare scenes where a comedy steps aside the tone shifts and Mel lets something raw and real come through. And it works. This movie balances goofiness with grace, parody with respect. It mocks the absurdity of fascism without ever making light of its impact. And honestly, we need more of that. Making fun of Nazis is a good thing. It always has been. Whether it's 1942 or 2025, there's a real power in laughing at monsters who think that they're untouchable. Brooks understands that. He has made that into his art. To be or not to be is, Brooks at his most mature, his most powerful, and most complete. It's clever, sincere, and biting and weirdly beautiful. And that's why it's my number one. So, what do you think? How would you rank Mel Brooks' movies? Are you as cautiously hyped as I am for Spaceballs 2? I should say one weird thing about making this video was finding the clips was kind of a journey. For some movies, like Young Frankenstein and Blazing Saddles, the clips were everywhere, as you would expect. But for others, I couldn't find anything beyond the trailers. And then for some reason, with the 12 chairs, and only the 12 chairs, the entire movie was just sitting there on YouTube. No explanation. It's just there. That's weird.
See you back at the safe house.
Anyways, if you like this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I've got more stuff in the works, and doing so really helps with the weird projects I do like this. Thanks for watching, and
Well, all right. Is this it?
You're
My
on.
Farewell?
Farewell address.
Hello there. This is 2,000 years talking to you from the depths of back there when we was. Now I'm still and they not. And I just want to say, keep your smile on your face and stay out of a Ferrari or any small Italian car. Stay out of them. And I want to tell you that it's been a wonderful 2,000 years, and you've been a wonderful civilization. And it's been a thrill living for 2,000 years. And eat a nectarine is the best fruit ever made. Jack Passion.